Golf Podcast, presented by Golficity, where we bring you the tips, instruction, and support you need to get the most out of your golf game. And now your hosts, Frank and Mike.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Golf Podcast. This episode, Mike and I have the pleasure of speaking with Sal Syed. He's the founder of Arccos Golf. As many of you know, Mike and I are avid Arccos users, and we have been for quite some time. Mike, I know you had the opportunity to meet Sal in New York City a few months ago. You got to hear about all those exciting things that they're rolling out, so I'm looking forward to that. But before we talk to Sal, let's recap. In this week's episode, we're going to talk briefly about the U.S. Open. Mike, I definitely want to get your take on what we saw in Erin Hills last week. We also have an exciting announcement regarding the Golficity Virtual Open that's going to be kicking off in just a few weeks. And of course, we're going to talk about some more giveaways that we have coming up. But first, Mike, let's talk about Bear Mattress because these guys are huge supporters of the show, and I'm loving what they've been doing lately. Look, today is the official first day of summer. It's hot out. We're all aging. Our muscles hurt. We struggle getting a solid night's sleep. What Bear has done is they've created an optimal cooling, recovery, and pain relief mattress so you can sleep better and perform at your best every single day. Plus, you could save money by stop spending $2,000 to $4,000 on those top of the line mattresses. It's just unnecessary. Bear mattress are eco-friendly. They're comfortable and supportive. And get this, they're up to 7 times cooler than traditional foam. And Mike, half the price.
It's amazing. And as I'm scrolling through their inventory, Frank, I'm noticing there's not one mattress, no matter what size, over $1,000. I mean, Bear mattresses are made in the USA, they're sold online, and they're shipped free to your door. I mean, take a chance on these guys. You really have nothing to lose. You're going to get a 100-night in-home trial, which is essentially the whole summer you could try this. And if you don't love it, they will pick it up and refund you 100% of your money. How cool is that? So check them out at Bear Mattress. That's BEAR mattress.com today and use the promo code Golf Podcast, one word, all caps, for $50 off your purchase. That's bearmattress.com. All right, Frank, about 2 hours ago, I announced this week's winner of the Atlas Premier giveaway in our Facebook group. And by the way, if you're not in there, you're missing out on a lot. So congrats to Daniel Cowell. And we even upped the prize this time. It was valued over $160. It was an Atlas Premier polo, an Atlas athletic t-shirt. By the way, I wear these to the gym almost every time I go. They're amazing. A golf hat and a 2-piece magnetic ball marker. And again, you can join our free Facebook group, which you can find by searching the Golf Podcast under groups.
Yeah, Mike, I love how you rolled up to our last round with a box full of shirts, hats, and t-shirts from Atlas Premier. And I'm not lying when I say this. These shirts are probably the most comfortable shirts I've ever worn. These guys thought of everything with their polos. I love even the extra added material they added around the neck that keeps me cool. It's truly excellent. And I agree with you 100%. I can't thank these guys enough. I always like when we find sponsors who help us give back to our listeners. We appreciate our listeners. And here's guys who are giving away every single week. They're giving away more. So like you said, jump in that Facebook group. And Mike, I think we'll all agree you need to step up your game. You got to get that golf apparel this summer, and Atlas Premier is the way to go. So show our friends at Atlas Premier some love and follow them on Instagram and Twitter at Atlas_Premier, and check them out at atlaspremier.com. That's atlaspremier.com. So Mike, we had another fun outing just the other day. We did the 3-club challenge, which we teased a little bit. So I won't talk too much about it because we're going to do an entire episode on it. Additionally, if you want to follow along and actually watch as it played out, definitely subscribe to our new YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/golficity. We're going to be putting all of our new vlog episodes there. We just did one for the Travelers when we played TPC River Highlands, which is just wrapping up as of when this podcast drops. That was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, getting to play a course just a couple weeks before the PGA Tour rolls through, full PGA Tour tournament conditions. That was awesome. So I'm glad we're able to get a little bit of video as well. But the 3-club challenge was great. I'm not going to say who won or lost because you guys have to wait to hear about that. And we teased it a little bit on Instagram. We put together a very short Instagram story while we were out there, but definitely check that out. And then quickly, because I don't want to take too much time because I'm really psyched for this interview with Sal, but let's just talk about Erin Hills. Mike, what did you think about, the Open?
First of all, I thought it was great. I mean, I love watching these guys kind of compete against each other. It was weird seeing these top guys not make it to the weekend, but hey, that's US Open golf for you. You know, it was crazy seeing all the stories about the high rough or fescue, and but overall, the course didn't seem like it was that difficult. Here's like a 14, 15 handicap saying that course didn't look difficult. You know, who am I to say that? But it didn't look that difficult for a traditional US Open course that we've seen recently. But I got to brag. I kind of, the Golficity guys over in our fantasy team, we do probably we offer the best fantasy picks on the internet. I mean, Frank, solid week in and week out. And these guys had Brooks Koepka as their top sleeper pick. Golficity has nailed it again. So I'm like, walking around, feeling good about things. Great event. Love seeing the guys like Justin Thomas and all those guys play really well. And hey, man, another major in the books, right?
Yeah, and you're right about as far as the difficulty goes, because everyone was complaining and talking about the fescue and how hard it was going to be going in. And yes, there were a lot of top names that got knocked out early. But there's also the numbers on the other side. For as tough as it is, you could also say how good these guys are getting. But you had many records set. You tied the low score in a round. You tied the low, score to par overall. So what did we come in with? I think 3 or 4 guys at double digits under par. Right. And I think 70 players all told. I think it was with the cut line who are under par, for the finish. So absolutely there's an argument to be made that it wasn't that difficult, but then again, I think it's subjective. It's so subjective. Yeah. I mean, it was the longest course in US Open history. I think it's just that the level that this game has come to with the athleticism that you see a lot of players adding in, all that other type of stuff. It's not like the old days. I hate to say it, where you have like one, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 standout golfers and the rest of the pack. It's like week in and week out. Anybody can be number one. Anybody can win. It's tremendous. And what they're doing, the way they're hitting the ball is mind blowing. I mean, that 18th hole that Justin Thomas eagled, it was playing 668.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a 5-foot putt for eagle.
3-wood, right?
He hit driver 3-wood, didn't he?
Oh, I thought it was 3-wood.
I think he hit driver 350, and then it was 30, whatever it was.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Or something.
Mm-hmm.
Now you could say whatever you want, that it rained the night before and the green was soft. He was able to land it. I don't care. That thing was dead on the pin. And it was really cool. I was actually talking with a bunch of the listeners in the Facebook group regarding Justin Thomas, because I posted a video there that I came across. Sometimes I like to kind of geek out on some of the real physics of it and the physics of the game, because a lot of times they'll study him, because you always hear talking about how small he is and yet how far he hits the ball. But not only did they say the amazing amount of which he hits the exact same spot on the face of the driver every single time, but also his turn is ridiculous. Watch it sometime. The speed of his turn is out of control. So here you don't have a guy who's a huge muscular guy. He's just flexible, and he's able to he's athletic. He just makes that turn crazy fast and generates that club head speed, just sends the ball tremendous distance.
It's amazing.
So that's really cool. And on top of that too, you kind of see he's almost like Bubba. He almost gets all the way off the ground when he makes contact. This is not something that I am advocating a mid-level handicapper to try, because it's gonna mess you up pretty bad. But some of these guys, their timing is so perfect, and they talk about that lift. That's how they get that nice height on the ball. He lifts up like 6 inches on impact. And that's why he's on, if you pause him at impact with his driver, he's on his toes. He's almost off the ground. So it's kind of crazy. But yeah, Mike, I was like psyched. My mind was blown as far as the fantasy picks go to see. I mean, how many people really had Koepka?
Not many.
In that pack, I mean, the guy's amazing. I'll give you that. But in that pack, cream of the crop, and then Golficity, at our sleeper picks, we got him as our top sleeper, our very top sleeper. And that's exactly what he was.
And Matsuyama was our other pick, and he came in second. So it was a pretty good week.
Yeah, really tremendous week. So that was cool. Again, loved it. Loved every minute of it. Loved the majors. We're halfway through them this season. I can't wait for the rest of them. Okay. So let's just quickly talk about Sal, before we bring him on the show. Arccos, I'm sure many of you have heard the name. They're getting bigger and bigger. They had a huge partnership recently with Microsoft. Mike and I have been talking about them for years. It's not a paid sponsorship. They don't pay us a dime. We just love using it. It's helped my game tremendously because I've been able to take my mind off of my stats, but yet still get my stats. So I love them. They launched back in 2014. Sal Syed, he's the CEO and co-founder of Arccos Golf, and he's working to produce an innovative product out of a combined love of golf and a passion for technology. Sal was earning his MBA at the Yale University School of Management, where he met his co-founder. And, with some help of some really smart PhDs, he went on to, bring us one of the coolest, most have to have it golf products on the industry today. But I don't want to ruin Sal's story. So without further ado, Mike, let's do a quick word from our sponsor, and then I want to bring him on the show.
You may know the USGA mostly for their 14 annual championships and competitions. I mean, we just saw one last week at Erin Hills. Their championships are widely looked upon as the ultimate test in golf, but there's a lot about the USGA that you may not know.
That's right, Mike. The USGA's innovation team has just come up with a resource management app that helps course superintendents know how to better allocate their resources and help ensure a better experience for golfers. Plus, the USGA's handicap system helps level the playing field and makes the game more social.
Yeah, and along with the RNA in Scotland, the USGA is modernizing the game's rules, and they're even asking us for feedback, and they invite you to share it with them anytime online. There's a lot to love about golf, and the greatness of the game brings out the best in all of us. So discover more at usga.org. All right, Sal, welcome to the Golf Podcast. It was a pleasure meeting you a few months ago in New York City and learning about all these exciting new things on the horizon for Arccos. And, as you know, Frank and I are avid users of the system. But first, welcome to the show. You've told the story about Arccos so many times in other podcasts. I love hearing it, and I want you to please tell it again for our listeners, if you can, Sal.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me on your show. Really excited to be chatting with you guys. The story of Arccos really, I would say, begins when I was going to business school at Yale. And I'd been in the tech industry before that as a data architect, software engineer, product manager. And my whole point of going to business school was so I could start something of my own. And over there, actually one of the reasons I ended up Yale was the golf course. It's a C.B. Macdonald designed golf course. And since then, I've become a golf architecture nerd. And Yale, I would say, in terms of architecture, is as good as any course really is out there. And so I thought between the first year and second year of my business school, I was like, I should do something that I really love. And I love golf. Golf's my passion. I would say like every major decision I've made in my life has somehow in one way, shape or form revolved around golf. And I was like, data, technology, golf kind of like are things I love, and ended up getting accepted to Yale's got its own incubator, but they only accept 10 people a year. And it's really helpful. And so I got accepted, worked with a co-founder there and a couple other engineers. Our original idea was to put sensors in golf balls. And we were like, if we track where the golf ball is going, then we can capture all the data and then give you insights, but also help you find your golf ball. Very quickly, we realized that golf balls compress so much when you do the slow-mo video of it, you couldn't create batteries or sensors that would be able to do that. And we pivoted to using impact detection, so detecting when you make impact with a golf ball, and then kind of tracking that point to point, which is how Arccos works today. And from there, I got connected to Callaway, and it turned out they were working on a similar project, and eventually I actually organized a golf summit at Bandon Dunes, which I'm sure you guys have been. It's just an amazing place, and got Yale to pay for it was 10 of us. We convinced Yale to pay for our trip out there, but we also convinced professors to write business school cases and invited industry leaders. And as part of that, I invited Callaway, and they talked about the shot tracking work that they'd done. And we ended up licensing their technology because when Chip came in, his mandate was to focus on golf clubs and golf balls from the shareholders. And so we licensed a bunch of patents, actually ended up building our own technology. and launched the first product for Arccos in the market in November of 2014. And since then, obviously, we've done a bunch of iterations, a lot of stuff, but that's kind of like how Arccos started.
You know, I got to ask you, Sal, what was the moment like when you realized, when you switch gears from, you know, putting the sensor in the golf ball and saying, hey, wait a minute, let's do nubs on the back of the club and track it via GPS? I mean, was it like an aha moment, like a big high five moment? Was it an exciting moment?
You know, I mean, I want to say it was, but the reality is you don't really know what's possible and what's not till it's done. And so I would say the high five and aha moment probably came in March of 2014. I was in San Diego with our head of hardware, Fabrice, and our senior director of hardware, Evan, who's actually a PhD from Yale. And we were looking, I mean, it's funny, like finding it, what the most amazing thing is we've been able to bring all these unbelievable people into working on solving this problem. Like Evan is one of those rare people who have like the perfect PhD that we needed, but was also a golfer. And so when you bring these people in, they're able to solve these problems. And so I remember there was a day in San Diego where the three of us were like, oh, this is just not possible, because there's thousands of different swings and like golf clubs going through all these impacts, you know, like it's like in your car, it's clanging, it's like all this stuff, but like we're gonna never do this. And then one day they figured it out. I mean, luckily I wasn't the one who was trying to figure it out, but they did, and that was pretty sweet. That was awesome. We went and had a nice dinner. We had some wine.
That's really cool. I mean, that's exciting. And yeah, I know recently you had a big announcement, a big partnership with Microsoft, and you rolled out this course analyzer, which is kind of like your caddy in the cloud, so to speak. And I've used it a ton of times, and I am blown away with the technology that is in there. I mean, tell us a little bit about this.
Totally. So, I mean, I would say like the idea for the caddy, I would say like the virtual caddy or whatever you want to call it, the machine learning AI caddy, really was an evolution of listening to our users and all that stuff. And also, I would say, researching the history of golf. I mentioned C.B. Macdonald earlier. I read his book, Scotland's Gift. I read a lot of like old golf books. I'm just that guy. I'm all into golf. And he wrote about the caddy. And he said like the caddy is a mentor and an institution. So well-versed is the caddy in your game that were you to make a club selection that is not recommended by your caddy, you'll invariably make a bad shot. And so I was like, you know, man, that's like, this is the, he was one of the co-founders of the USGA, kind of father figure in American golf. I started researching like, you know, caddy, like we don't really get to play with caddies anymore. But 100 years ago, every round was played with the caddy. Today, I talked to some of the guys at Golf Digest. They said like about 3% of rounds are played with caddies. So that whole thing about like being an institution and a mentor and all that stuff's gone away. And we started analyzing the sport a little bit from, I would say, a behavioral, economic, psychological aspect. And when you think about golf, it really is the perfect sport for analysis simply because of the way it's played. It's like your ball goes from one point to another. If you know the exact location and the terrain, you can literally calculate every single value of the shot, like how good or bad was it. You can quantify that. Unlike, it's better than baseball for analytics, and that's not me saying it. That's Daryl Morey, who's the guy, who's the Moneyball guy for basketball, is the general manager for Houston Rockets. He's the MIT Sports Analytics Conference co-founder. I was having a beer with him, and I was like, he'd rank sports like baseball is a 10 in terms of data analytics, suitability for that, advanced analytics. Basketball is a 7, and he said every other sport's a 1 and a 5. And I asked him where golf ranked in that. And he thought about it for a while. And he's like, you know, golf is an 11 because it really is perfect for analysis. So not only is golf perfect for analysis, it's also perfect for influencing your decisions. Because before every shot, you're spending that 45 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, figuring out like, okay, what's the wind doing? What's the elevation? How far do my clubs go? How am I hitting? What should I hit? And so that decision-making process happens. And that's where the caddy used to help you. Today, you're kind of lost by yourself in the fog of war, making emotional decisions. So what we've done using this AI caddy, using machine learning in our partnership with Microsoft, which we're super excited about, and those guys have been so amazing and helpful. We've created the world's smartest caddy, and this caddy is going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. We're going to introduce more variables, more data, and the more data it gets about you, the smarter the decisions are going to get. So that's kind of how, like in a nutshell, the whole concept evolved. I can go deeper into how the caddy works if you want me to.
Well, Sal, you're certainly not kidding with regards to that thing being smart. What I'm amazed by, one little thing, and you obviously don't have to give up the secret sauce of how this works, but even the wind on that. I mean, down to that local level. I'm standing there on the tee, and you have a wind indicator, and I feel the exact breeze in that direction. And I start to think this is some sort of magic here you got going.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We have a bunch of data partnerships or weather partnerships and stuff like that, which certainly is very helpful, and we have our own algorithms. But, I mean, it is so mind-bogglingly amazing. I'll tell you, like, when I lost my mind with the caddy, this was, I think, April 26th or 28th, literally my first round with Arccos Caddy. I step up to hole number 7 at Tamarack Country Club, which is my home course here in Connecticut. And it's also like designed by a C.V. McDonald protege, so I'm staying true to my roots. But I step up to a par 3, and it's 149 yards to the hole, and it's way downhill. And the wind's in my face. And I was like, and it's a little bit of wind, whatever. I was like, this is a 9-iron shot because my 9-iron goes 139, so downhill. Mm-hmm. And the Arccos Caddy told me to hit an 8-iron. I hit the 8-iron, it goes in the hole. And this is all documented. It's all official. We had people watching. And so I was like, holy, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, okay, this, after that, I'm never going to question the Arccos Caddy. Somehow those things that I don't know. And so that was my personal experience with it. But I mean, the thing is, like, we've recorded 70 million shots. It's learning from all that. There's so much data in there that the human mind cannot digest and understand and comprehend and come up with the right answers. What machine learning algorithms allow us to do is feed all this data, and the machines are like, the neural net and all that stuff, so much smarter in terms of understanding what this data means that they're able to give you better advice than you would kind of generate yourself. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying it's going to be better than anything humans can do on average. And it's only going to get better and better and smarter and smarter.
Sal, I mean, it's amazing stuff. And Frank and I talk about course management a lot on the podcast. And when I had the pleasure of getting that private tutorial from you not too long ago, am I saying this correctly? I mean, the course analyzer will basically analyze my stats and tell me that perhaps instead of driver wedge on this hole, I need to use hybrid 8-iron, due to the hazard on the left. So talk about having a caddy with you right there. And what's the talk back to people who always question battery life or usage? What do you say to that?
So, I mean, I would say battery life and usage we use on iOS. We monitor that very closely. If we're using more than 50% of your battery over a 5-hour round or 4.5-hour round, we send you tips on how to save battery. Which are generally non-Arccos related. You can play with Arccos in airplane mode. Of course, you won't get the caddy advice because it's got to hit the cloud and come back. But if you play in airplane mode, we take up 10%. That's our use. That's our base.
Wow.
It's all the other stuff that's using the batteries, and it's your screens. But we have all the tips. We get you to that point where you're not using up a lot of battery. On Android, I would say for most of the models, for the Samsung and LG, the top end brands, we're very good with battery. We run into issues with older models and things like that, which we're solving. And Android generally is like just a tougher platform to develop because of fragmentation. But we're working through those issues, but still will last around. But I would say iOS 50%, just expect that. But you can save more if you want to go to airplane mode. And it's think of it as helping your golf game. That battery usage is helping you save strokes.
Right. To me, that's a small hurdle. I mean, it can be solved with I can get on $15 on Amazon. You can get a little battery backup, power, because the reality is you're putting stats in the pocket of people that was only accessible to PGA Tour level players previously. And that's one thing that I want to jump in and tell you, that my biggest experience with it, and I love using it on every single round, but my biggest thing is I'm the type of person who loves having my stats, but I also hate being distracted when I'm playing. So I would, for the longest time, try to keep them on the back of the card, the most important ones, missed left, missed right, whatever with the fairway, green and regulation, stuff like that. And then all of a sudden this comes along and I've got all of my stats, and I don't even need to pull my phone out if I don't want to. So
Yep.
that's been such a huge thing for me. So I just wanted to throw that out there when I got the chance to speak with you and let you know that that's been a huge help for my game. But one thing I wanted to get your take on, and speaking of this, and we were talking about, as you said, the caddy being kind of the thing that had been around for a long time, and you're bringing that into the game now, bringing it back into the game with technology.
Back. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And recently, I'm sure you heard just a couple of days ago, PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Moynihan had mentioned how for the longest time we were talking about golf being in decline and all this other things, and everybody was kind of panicking. And all of a sudden the numbers come out that it's actually the opposite. You know, we got 23.8 million people playing golf. It's a $70 billion industry. Golf is truly on the rise. They're saying they're seeing an increase of 25% in the number of junior golfers who are getting out there. And what I found, that was all very promising, but what I found most interesting is they attribute a lot of that to technology. They're saying the technology that's being introduced to the game in so many different facets. So I want to get your take on that. You know, running one of the biggest golf technology companies, what is your thinking there?
I mean, I think technology is kind of like a train. Either you get run over by it or you jump on it. And I think golf's kind of changing its mindset and understanding that, you know, technology can be a huge benefit. And if we're not on it, we're going to get run over by it. So I think that whole shift, whether it's the USGA, PGA Tour, PGA of America, all these organizations, which, I mean, it's hard to have that organizational change for a sport that's kind of steeped in tradition and history and all that stuff. But it is happening. And I think those are the results you're seeing. They're encouraging. I mean, our conversations with the USGA, like, for example, the Arccos Caddy is conforming. And that probably, I would say that view would not have existed 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That ruling would not have existed. And so I think, but technology is very, very important, because when you look at the things that have taken over in the last, I would say 10, 15 years among the millennials, biking, running, all that stuff, like everything is tracked. Like when you go running, when anybody goes running or biking, they're tracking everything. So the mobile phone has kind of become an extension of your life. And if we don't take that extension of your life as a millennial on the golf course, they're going to feel that's an antiquated environment that they don't belong in. And so what we've done is we've extended that platform and made golf a part of their life in a cool, data-driven, I would say tech-driven way, which I think makes golf cool. And in reality, why are we playing golf? We're playing golf to have fun. If we don't think it's cool, we're not going to play it. Right. And so we're changing that perception.
And shareable as well, because within Arccos, you can share your round, and that's becoming a huge part too, where we're sharing everything we do. So I couldn't agree with you more. So I know you guys are growing at an amazing pace right now. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's in store for Arccos in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think like when we look at the future, I think I'll talk like big picture vision. Our goal really is twofold. One is to help the golfer get better and have more fun. So we're going to keep providing more deeper analysis. We're actually going to be making some more cool announcements around the Arccos Caddy, I would say, in the next month and a half, like unbelievable new features where you're going to lose your mind. I promise you that. And then beyond that, we want to help the entire industry, because we have all this data which can make the entire industry more efficient, like help golf club manufacturing companies maybe target their products better to the actual needs of the golfers, because not everybody needs to hit it 10 yards longer. In fact, that might add more dispersion and you might actually lose strokes. So the actual accountability and the actual product, I would say product need matching, can get really more efficient. Like golf courses, we can make them more efficient just by sharing location data. So it'll help their irrigation patterns. And the USGA study that used some for data said that it'll say, like, if golf courses have their have the data where people are walking, taking shots, all that stuff, they can reduce their irrigation expenses by 40 to 70%. So our mission is, again, twofold: helping the golfer get better, have more fun, and then helping the entire industry. And the way we're going to realize that is our target is to put a sensor in literally every single club that's sold on the market. We already have Cobra signed up. All their drivers are coming embedded with Arccos. We're going to be actually announcing a really cool new feature in Arccos Driver, which will allow, which I'll kind of give your viewers a little bit, or listeners, a sneak view into it. But basically, we're going to be using AI and machine learning to help tune your driver, because 98% of people, every driver is customizable. 98% of people don't customize it. We're going to be taking your data once you've played 3 rounds with it and tell you whether you're in an optimal setting or maybe you should move the weights around to get to the right setting. Brilliant. And so that's kind of like tip of the iceberg. In fact, I was talking to Mike Secura at Golf Digest, and he said that Golf Digest study revealed that since people don't tune their driver or customize it, they leave 23 yards on the table. So imagine that. I mean, that's one of the cool things we're doing. But goal is to embed literally every single club on the market by 2020 with Arccos, and then use machine learning and AI to give golfers and the entire industry insights based on that data.
Well, Sal, cool things is exactly what you guys are doing. So we applaud you and your team for what you're doing. We thank you for coming on the show. We're excited about what you guys are about to roll out, and for many years to come. Before we quickly wrap up with you, I got to just ask you one final random question. Mm-hmm. We got to assume you use Arccos every time you get out there, right?
Every single round.
And what happens if you're on a very low battery and you can't use it? Are you kicking yourself? Are you shaking out there or what?
I'm like so well planned that's literally never happened to me.
Okay,
but
good.
At the same time, I always play with 2 phones, an Android phone and an iOS phone. So I want to experience like both are consumers, like the Android platform consumers and iOS. So it's never happened. In fact, actually, I'll tell you, it did happen. I played my member guest, and we played 27 holes in one day, but it took like 9 hours because of rain delay and everything else. And so my iOS phone died. My Android was still alive. So saved my life.
Oh, there you go. That's brilliant.
I think you get a free pass on a 9-hour round. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It was 27 holes and raining and all that stuff,
Yeah. But hey, and we did hear in the news about that hole-in-one, so congrats.
Thank you. It's actually my 3rd hole-in-one in the last 3 years with Arccos. And I'm not a unique case, by the way. We have multiple users with multiple hole-in-ones. And like one guy posted on Facebook, I think it was recently, he said 40 years, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he said before Arccos, 40 years of golf, 0 hole-in-ones. With Arccos, 6 months of golf, 2 hole-in-ones. And those are like not unique stories. And the reason is your distance is so much better, and now you're going to be invariably closer to the hole.
True.
And our average user, I mean, if I may share a piece of data, which is I find really fascinating, our average user ends up, after 10 rounds, their approach shots end up 14.9 feet closer to the hole. So that's like the difference between a 25-foot putt and a 10-foot putt. And that, to me, is just fascinating. It's like kind of we're piercing this cognitive bias that golfers have. They overestimate their ability. They think they'll hit longer than they do. And that bias exists among like the entire population. When you go to the Driver's License Institute, 87% of people say they're better than average drivers. And that overestimation ability certainly exists among the golfer demographic. And what we see is people, once we present them data like, hey, you don't actually hit your 8-iron 150, it goes 142, they start adjusting to it because they then start scoring better. And so even though it might be an initial ego hit, in the end, we're all trying to score better. So people are able to adjust and play better, which is exciting.
That really is. Yeah. Just getting them to listen. That's the hard part. But it's hard to argue with a hole-in-one.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Well, Sal, listen, thanks again. We appreciate it. And hey, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sal. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, great interview. I won't talk too long here because I know we went a little bit over, but again, so much great stuff from Sal. I love it. The stuff that they've got coming, it's amazing. I think this is the perfect combination where you've got a guy who really is knee deep in technology, but as you heard Sal say, he's a real true golfer. He's a true fan, student of the game. And when you get that together, I think that's when you start to see some real great groundbreaking things happening. And that's exactly what they're doing. So I'm looking forward to these announcements that come out from them. Boom, 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 one after the other. I love using it. I mean, I don't have to reiterate that. You guys hear me talk about that week in and week out. If you're, using Arccos, let us know about it in the podcast group on Facebook. Otherwise, if you haven't checked it out yet, I strongly encourage you to do so. Before we wrap it up, once again, I want to thank this week's sponsor, the USGA. You may know the USGA mostly for its championships, but did you know the USGA is working to modernize golf's rules by making them easier to understand and apply? and that they're working with golf facilities to help reduce their dependency on critical resources, including a reliance on water, or that the USGA's handicap system is used in more than 40 countries around the world. There's a lot to love about golf, and the greatness of the game brings out the best in all of us. Discover more at usga.org. So, okay, that's everything we have. Like I said, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/Golficity or search Golficity on YouTube. You'll see our channel. We're rolling out a lot of new great videos that kind of go hand in hand with the podcast. A lot of the stuff that we talk about here, we're going to be filming our rounds when we're out there. So definitely check that out, as well as look for the big announcement. We're going to have the Golficity Virtual Open coming up real soon. This is something that I know you guys have asked for a long time, a way for all of us listeners to get together and play. And although we're spread out all over the world and it's hard to play physically in the same location, we've worked with 18 Birdies to create a way where we can all play in the same tournament virtually. So it's going to be very simple setup, very simple structure. You play a round at the course of your choosing. It's going to be net scores. So anybody can get in, anybody can compete because you'll be able to use your handicap, and it's going to be for fun. And we're putting together a lot of great prizes. So definitely check that out. All right. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Sal, for coming on the show. We'll talk to you again next week.